Good morning, everybody. Yes, here we are, and we're live. I'm alive. I mean, Pussy, I had to phone me just now and check that I was alive. And if you think I'm bad, Leigh-Ann is even worse. She hasn't even woken up yet. I don't know what happened. I just went straight back to sleep. It's ridiculous.
You guys are having a Monday on a Friday.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no explanation for this. I went to sleep nice and early last night. I had a fat sleep. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's kind of childish. Anyway, let me try and see if we can connect this thing up because there's a problem with the studio anyway, so that doesn't help.
Oh, no.
Oh, there we go. We're on. Good morning. Da, 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 da. We're live. Okay, so
if it makes you feel better, you're sleeping in tomorrow.
Oh, I'm going to sleep in tomorrow like you can't believe. What are you talking about? I think I might even sleep the whole weekend. What the hell? So we are here. Sorry about the delay, everybody. All right, weekend plans. Sia, got anything to boast about for this weekend?
No. And this weekend, I really, really, really hope I do get to stay in. I always say that, and then, weekends become weekends and people call you and people come over and whatnot. I really would like to sit and stay at home this weekend.
Yeah, Melissa says Gareth sounds like he's still waking up. Winter is not his friend. Yeah, that's true.
Winter is no one's friend. This happens to all of us.
The worst part is, I'm in my own house. I have no reason to be late, It's ridiculous. And Pihleng is just giving us a bit of hell here. He says, these clowns owe us an apology for being so late. You know what, Pihleng, let's not start Friday.
No prisoners.
Yeah, let's not start Friday antagonistic towards each other. It won't go well from here on in. I've got so much funny shit to show you this morning. I know we've got to start the show with serious things, or we've got to at least start with something that means something, but I've got to start with this. There it is again. Everybody doesn't. This joke, the Biden and Carter picture is my favorite thing in the whole world. They are it's really just like two different species of human meeting each other, and it makes me laugh. It has made me laugh every day this week since I started seeing it.
At this point, we don't even know. Well, I don't even know or care about why they were meeting, what they discussed. Maybe maybe they were discussing world peace, but nah,
nobody cares.
Not I care at all.
Yesterday's burning platform was fiery, so if you want to hear some of that, then you can go and take a look. And I don't even know what to make of this, but we had Rob Hutchinson from Dear South Africa on, and then someone on social media was like, "Oh, he doesn't work for them anymore. He was fired." So we ask Rob, have you been fired from Dear South Africa? He's like, "No, these people are looking for attention." And these are supposedly sensible people. I mean, I just don't know what to make of stuff like this. People will talk such shit on social media, They seem to make everything up. It's totally made up nonsense. There's no way to figure it out.
I don't know. It's just...
Who do you trust these days? I mean, who do you even know you can believe on social media? The list is like 3 names long, maybe. It's ridiculous. I've got to show you something very, very funny. Let me just find it on my phone here quickly and send it through, because this is. I was on a bit of a roll last night. I just found all these hilarious things, including this doctor who, a picture of Robert De Niro. And did you see that on my Instagram yesterday?
No.
Oh God. Okay, you're in for a fun day. This is going to be hilarious. Let me send this quickly. We've got this system now where I can put pictures up live on the show, and you can see them obviously like we did with the Carter picture just now, and it's hilarious.
Yeah,
it's really funny.
Still not watching us on YouTube, then you're missing out.
I mean, listen, and by the way, I've any good YouTuber, and I'm supposing that we're now in that category, always reminds their audience, you got to like and subscribe, and We're crap at that. So I always forget to tell you to like and subscribe, but you must please. It's very important for us.
Oh,
Otherwise, we don't
yes.
know whether we. Yeah, thank you. There we go. So yeah, that's the thing to show everybody. That is it. Beautiful. So first of all, let me show you this because this is hilarious. This is a clip of a doctor. Well, it's supposed to be Dr. Fauci, but it's this guy talking about when America can eventually open up, and by implication, when the whole world can eventually open up, because everybody's asking, why are we still under a state of disaster in South Africa? Everybody's asking, why do we still have to mask our children when we know children don't die from this thing? Why are we all still hand sanitizing and bothering with this ridiculous, stupid thing, even if we've been vaccinated, which is a good question. So here he is. Listen to this.
I'd say even if you live alone, I would wear a mask in the house, especially in the shower, because frankly, droplets can make their way through the drain and come up through somebody else's toilet, infecting them with COVID through the anus. Ballpark, in 2 to 5 to 20 years, we can start thinking about considering the idea of pondering, the thought of conceptualizing the possibility of maybe, perhaps reopening, but probably not. I would avoid having any fun whatsoever in the near to far future.
Isn't that about right? Because that's, I mean, like, a lot of these people are talking like that. They're actually saying, "Oh well, maybe not. We've got to be super, super careful." And it's just bullshit. It really is. It's starting to sound like bullshit, and people are taking it less and less seriously.
They're also saying things, but you aren't really understanding what they're saying. It's back to what we were discussing a couple of days ago. Just people who speak, and even if it's just mixing in, professional corporate talk and jargon or medical jargon. So what are you exactly saying?
Well, I have to say, and this is a super controversial thing, but I think that this whole coronavirus thing has done one very, very dangerous thing to all of us. It has made us extremely suspicious of arguments from authority. In other words, it has made us doubt
refraining from singing the song.
Arguments from authority. What's the song you're thinking of?
The Suspicious song. Yes.
I'm not on that wavelength yet. Maybe if Leigh-Ann was here, I'd be going, because I'm actually careful to use the word around her because I know she's going to burst out into song.
I know. It's like walking in, landmines.
But if we can be serious for a minute, it has made everybody doubtful of experts, because a lot of these experts, instead of sticking to the field in which they are expert, have become experts in everything. Like, if you ask an epidemiologist about something to do with the epidemic, if you ask someone who deals with infectious diseases about infectious diseases, then they are the right person to talk to. But the fact that there are experts now who are telling people how to live their lives, what they should do with masks, where they should go to the shops, that have nothing to do with any of those fields, just makes it all seem kind of ridiculous. And I think we've also learned that politicians will say and do just about anything to keep and to grow their power. So it's really, I think it's harmed human relations in a very serious way. I'm not just talking about the wild and wacky people on the fringes who believe that the vaccine is something dangerous. And I had this conversation with my parents yesterday, and they're probably at an age where they should get the vaccine, and I'm supporting them on that front. I think if they want to do it, I'll support them 100%. But there are people who will say, "Oh no, you got to stay away. It's definitely dangerous." I'm sorry. If we'd had that attitude,
do they still feel the same? Your parents?
I think they want to get it. I think they're in that age group where it's probably a good idea to get it.
Because
I mean, a lot of people. Yeah.
My parents have started to differ now. My mom is just a girl about town. She says she doesn't care about this. You know what? It's just her body and she's going to take care of it. Whereas my dad has now upped the ante with things now. He has a whole ritual every time he leaves the house and every time he comes back
Oh, really?
from outside, and how he cleans himself off now. So they're differing so
So
much.
your dad is behaving like we all did in April last year.
It's gotten slightly worse. You know,
Sure.
he's sort of sometimes actually kicks my mother out and lets her use the bathroom, the other bathroom in the house, as opposed to the ensuite bathroom, because now he has this whole thing where he has eucalyptus oil all over again, and it's so steamy and stuffy in there. Then she starts complaining, then they fight over that. So she goes, okay, then fine, I'll go and use that other bathroom then. So he's really, really, really paranoid, extra paranoid now.
Yeah. And look, my parents are not paranoid, and I don't think they've ever been. And we kind of we made a decision as a family that we would all see each other the whole way through the lockdown anyway last year, and we did. We didn't let any of that get in our way. It was a family decision. Nobody got really sick or died, thank goodness. I mean, maybe if something like that had happened, we would be sitting here going, we shouldn't have. Hello, Leigh-Ann Mole.
Hello.
Cheers.
Good morning.
We decided
Why are you here so early? I thought we started 6:30.
This reminds me of the old days when I used to read the news for you.
Exactly that. Exactly.
No, you're having a Monday on a Friday.
We're just talking about our parents and their different responses to everything, including the vaccine. But I had a conversation with them yesterday, and I said to them, "Look, what do you guys really feel? Because we haven't talked about it seriously. We don't have very many serious conversations as a family. It's just not our thing. So normally it's taking the piss and laughing at each other." Anyway, they both said, "Look, if it's not too much of a schlep, they'll get the vaccine. If it's a schlep and they have to wait in a queue or they have to go somewhere far away, then they're not going to do it. But if it's close and it's nearby, they think it's a good idea to get it because, as my dad said, and he's very rational about this, nobody who gets the vaccine gets very sick and has to go to hospital or dies from it. So he said that's a good enough reason for him." And I said to him, "Cool. And we don't have a say as your children. You go ahead and do it." Because they've got a friend who she can't see her grandchildren because her daughter won't let her into the house unless she's been vaccinated. I think that's hard.
Word. Oh.
But different strokes, hey? Everybody has their rules. I know people who are still as scared, and we were talking about Sia's father just now, who has a whole ritual about cleaning himself off before he gets into the house, and he has hand sanitizer and a whole ritual. And you know what? I'm not going to mock people like that because it's all about them. It's all about their own level of comfort. And if your level of comfort is I don't give a shit, then that's fine. I'm not going to bother getting upset about it. And if your level of comfort is being extremely, extremely careful just in case, that's also fine. I do think it's ridiculous if you wear a mask in the car on your own. That's where I draw the line. I'm like, that's stupid. And I see so many people doing that. It's crazy.
Or if you're taking a walk and you're miles from anyone and you're wearing a mask.
Well, look, exactly. I do get where my dad comes from. And, he's from that era where you don't really talk much about your feelings and you don't even acknowledge your emotions. But I think he's been through a lot that would really change a person. Being a priest, and you go and help families in sometimes the most disastrous and times of need. It's now in retrospect where we look at some of the stories that he's told us and we go, this is not healthy. This is not normal. He's gone and helped kids after their family home has burned down and their parents have died in a fire. And I'm like, this is not what regular people should be going through. And you can't just shrug that off as if that's normal. I only retell that story because he went through months of not eating meat after that happened, because he said he went to help this family out and the smell of burning bodies was still so rife in the air. So I'm like, man. So right now with these times that we're in, he has been going out and conducting funeral after funeral after funeral. And that has inadvertently and understandably left a mark on him.
That is such a
Yeah.
tough gig. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that is a really hard job to do. And yeah, obviously, depending on how exposed you are to other people and their trials and tribulations, it also gives you a huge deal of empathy that the rest of us can't muster, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid there are people like me who, even when someone who's maybe not in the family, but someone who's like 1 degree away dies of this thing, I'm still like, well, you know,
Yeah.
it's gonna
And then
kill some people. Sorry.
there are varying degrees of all of this, because I spend so much time at home, I actually sometimes forget the need for a mask. I've lost count of the number of times I have to turn around and actually come back and get a mask because I'm so not used to it. So yeah, depends how much we're all exposed to this.
All right, enough about Corona for the morning. We don't need to start off Friday like that, but it did come up, and I thought it was an interesting discussion to have yesterday. So take a look at this quickly. This is a picture of Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, and the two of them are. It's comparing how they looked in like 1995 and how they look now. Look at this.
Oh,
right. So there they are. In
Al Pacino could do with a bit of a tidying up of his hair, but otherwise they look very jolly and still full of life, man.
Listen, I mean, this is cruel Father Time, right? This is how one day people will be putting pictures of us up like this. I mean, maybe they already are, because if you compare us to how we looked maybe 15 years ago when we were doing that morning show, then maybe people would be disappointed in how badly we've aged. But I look at, I mean, Bob De Niro's, he's still not a bad looking dude, and Al Pacino's, he looks pretty messy. He looks like that king. He looks like that dirty old king from Lord of the Rings.
It's just his hair. Otherwise,
I don't know.
Not bad.
I actually prefer my 2020 version of De Niro than the 1995 one.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. He looks more distinguished. He has more character. A younger version looks a little all over the place.
Well, good for them then. I mean, they've won you over, Sia. That's very good news. However, take a look at this picture of Bill and Melinda Gates, who we've been talking about a lot this week. Let me hear your comments. All right. Who do you want to see? Let's start with the grandma on the right.
Bill. Yeah, she is not a grandma, Gareth.
That's a grandma on the right. Bill looks like an old granny.
Oh, sorry.
I was waiting for the penny to drop for Sia.
Thanks.
No, Melinda looks like a man, but Bill looks like a granny.
So what's interesting, Gareth, about old age is that men start producing less testosterone and their features become more feminine, and women stop producing as much estrogen. So
correct.
It's bound to happen.
So in other words, we all become a little bit more androgynous.
Oof.
Yeah. Well, look at so true.
Poster. I mean, this poster they used in Wales to advertise how people can warm their houses up, especially for old people, and if you can help, it's like a charity drive. And they used Paul McCartney as their poster boy. Look at this.
Come on. Oh no.
That is very.
Wants to live in a cold home.
That is very Paul McCartney-esque, I will admit.
It is, right? I mean, that's very Paul McCartney. So anyway.
Look, I think Melinda's going to have a great old time now. She looks decent for a 56-year-old.
I'd love to know what's gone on there, but yeah, I also wish that I was.
What do you mean?
That I was one of their kids.
You don't think? We discussed this on Wednesday, and we said it's just two people that don't love each other anymore, or the kids have moved out now. The last of their kids has moved out of the house, and they've got all this money, and they've got time because they're still like Bill is 65 or something, Sia, you said, and Melinda's in her late 50s. They've still got a fair amount of life in front of them. I don't think there's any conspiratorial going on there. They need to start their own households.
The only reason, I mean, they've got enough money to even live in separate houses if it was at that point where they weren't amicable anymore or had irreconcilable differences. So the only reason why there would need to be a divorce on paper is if one of them was moving on into another relationship. That's the way I see it.
Good point.
That is a good point. I mean, otherwise, why bother? You could just separate and carry on with your life.
They have 5 houses. They're very busy. They could actually avoid seeing each other for half of the year because this one is in the Congo, the other one is, starting a new business there. Good point.
We'll know if Leigh-Ann is right because obviously in a few months it'll all,
And let's remember that Melinda was the one who filed. So I reckon she may be pursuing another relationship. Perhaps she's had a change of
gender.
Gender preference. Or it seems like, and especially because they've had children, they've got children and they just seem like a really wholesome bunch. It feels like she wouldn't pursue another relationship publicly or in front of her children without sealing off this one.
That's an interesting theory.
I brought this up a little earlier this week, and Gareth and Bulelo didn't disagree with me on this. Do you think there's such a thing as being too eligible?
What, to the point that it's suspicious? Don't be suspicious.
You just queued yourself up there. No, I mean, wouldn't you be slightly intimidated to hit on a Bill Gates or a Melinda Gates? You're successful, you're powerful, you have so much money. Would you not think even slightly like, oof, what do I have to give someone like this?
You've got to remember that there are people too. I mean, just this week, there was a woman on a dating app who was matched with Ben Affleck. And she thought, well, this must be a scam. Someone's using his photograph and his name. And so she said no or swiped left or whatever. And Ben Affleck left her a video on her Instagram, her direct messages, and said, hey, so-and-so, why did you not take me seriously? I am in the dating game.
How's that?
And she's like this highly attractive woman. And she totally regrets this now. And Ben Affleck has come out and admitted that he's on dating apps because he's looking for a date.
Good for him.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people, he's too good for that. But I reckon that's the only way you can, if you want a relationship now, it's probably the only way you can do it. Because where do you go to meet people? You're always going to meet people either in your circle or your friend's circle, but it's never going to be more than 1 or 2 degrees from that. And you've probably met them already in that case. And, if you live in a big city, for example, especially in America, Los Angeles has been very strict about lockdowns for a very long time. How does Ben Affleck, if that's where he lives, how does he meet people? And how does he meet people who don't, who aren't going to have a problem with the fact that he's Ben Affleck, for example? So I think that's a really cool story. It just proves, and this doesn't mean that if you see a celebrity on a dating app, everybody that's for real.
No. Okay, so
you should treat that with a pinch of salt. But that's a cool story.
I guess perhaps it's just my own insecurities then coming to play. There's certain people like Ben. Okay, Ben, you're an actor, but like a David Attenborough, I wouldn't know what would you say to a person like that. What is date night like? You want to come back and sit on the couch? Do I even want to show you my Netflix recommendation? Because I feel like that would dumb you down. feel like I'd have to talk about the penguins that are covered in oil. Let's talk about world issues. You don't want to see the housewives.
Yeah, but also remember that a person like that is not necessarily seeking someone with exactly the same outlook on life. They're enchanted by and attracted to your way of life and certain things about yourself that you didn't realize were that important.
I just want to refer to Clinton's comment here, because this is maybe something everybody's thinking about this Bill Melinda Gates situation. Clinton says, the two richest men in the world, that's Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates, couldn't keep their women. How am I supposed to keep mine?
Oh, well, that extends to a point I wanted to raise this morning, but let's go to the things, then I'll bring it up.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, yeah, it's already the 5 things time. So let's move on to that. Jesus,
Past the 5 things time. Yeah,
crazy, right?
How?
Okay, so first thing, Zondo Commission. Kevin Wakeford says Agrizzi was a greedy and narcissistic man. Kevin Wakeford is the guy who's accusing former Bosasa COO Angelo Agrizzi of being a racist, a narcissist, and greedy. Wakeford denied allegations by Agrizzi that he negotiated a contract between Bosasa and the Home Affairs Department. Wakeford appeared at the state capture inquiry to respond to testimony which implicated him as a facilitator and benefactor in some of Bosasa's untoward business dealings. He worked as a consultant on a monthly retainer of 50,000 Rand at Bosasa for 10 years. So, all right, Kevin, if you weren't there trying to facilitate dodgy deals, what were they paying you 50 grand a month for 10 years for? You know, that's a fairly big consultancy fee, and you must have been doing other work as well. So you were earning good money. You know, that's what exactly were you doing as a consultant for Bosasa? Like, what does your consultancy include? That's what everyone wants to know. And of course, you know, the Watsons come into this because they were the guys at the top of the Bosasa tree. The Watsons gave white people credibility and legitimacy in the country, he said. It is those people who played township rugby, built companies, and were empowering. I mean, what a lot of shit. What an absolute steaming pile of shit. So I don't believe a word that this guy says, but maybe it's just me. I also don't necessarily know if I can believe everything that Agrizzi said, but we should be treating all of this with a huge degree of suspicion.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
All right. Anyway, ANC spokesperson Pule Mabe has reiterated that Cyril Ramaphosa was not suspended as the party's president. The ANC suspended Secretary General Ace Magashule wrote a letter to Ramaphosa this week informing him of his suspension. Ramaphosa told the party's parliament he received this with shock and dismay. Cyril's always shocked, hey? Shock. It's always shock and dismay. Anyway, Magashule is one of the party's leaders affected by the ANC's 2017 resolution to step aside or face suspension if he is accused of corruption. Mabe says Magashule should not act on his own accord. We are a collective. The president or the deputy president alone does not constitute a collective, but the president, along with other officials, forms a collective. Oh, thanks, Pule. We all needed you to explain that to us like we're morons. The only morons I can see in this story are the ANC.
I wonder who had to tell the president that this was going on. Because, you know, it was late on, was Wednesday or Tuesday? Wednesday night. So was the president asleep at the time? Then does someone have to wake him up and go, Mr. President?
Someone who's already up and dressed and in a suit and been awake all night.
Mr. President, the idiot that your party suspended this afternoon is now saying you're suspended. How do you want to deal with it? So it's like, just tell them I'm shocked and dismayed, and turns over and goes. DA Gauteng leader Salim Simanga has been assaulted by a man who had earlier charged the politician was a thief and a liar. A video showing a bleeding Simanga has now made its way to social media. In it, the attacker can be heard screaming at him, who's on the phone while bleeding from the mouth, and just above his left eye there's a cut. The alleged attacker is claiming that Solly owes him 1.4 million rand. Oy, oy, oy. You're a liar and a thief, he says, and this is what happens to liars and thieves. And you don't try to turn this into a political storm for yourself in my direction. You owe me money and I want it, said the angry, unidentified man. Have you got that video?
This doesn't happen in certain other countries, you know.
Jesus.
I didn't know if we could play it or not because it's quite bloody. So I don't know what the YouTube graphic regulations are. Next thing, we're banned for life. So.
All right. Well, then we won't play it. But anyway, I haven't seen the video myself. So
but also it's weird because he didn't kind of clean himself up. He left himself that way for a long time so that, you know, cameras and everything could get the benefit of seeing him.
Well, I wonder what's really going on there. Do you think Solly owes people money, or do you think that this is some dude who's a bit crazy?
Because another thing that happened in the video that's not mentioned in that article is that the man who took the video alleges that Solly had a gun on him. So either pointed the gun at the person who took the video or actually like hit him with a gun, but there was a bit of an altercation around a gun as well. So
I don't know what to make of it. To be perfectly frank, it's all just very confusing. Tula, remember him? He's the minister. He joined some workers at a meeting in Dedorens. Do you know where that is? It's there.
Somewhere in the middle of South Africa.
Dedorens is it's somewhere in the Western Cape, I think. Right? It's in Worcester. So apparently farm workers have raised concern over access to the UIF, and Tula was there. So they all got together and he joined them on video. Farm workers have highlighted issues such as long waiting periods to access UIF benefits, as well as a lack of staff and resources at the UIF offices. Well, I mean, anyone who applied for TERS last year from the government knows that these systems do not always work well. Remember how it was round about this time last year that we were all starting to wonder how we could file for that stuff, remember? So we could...
I actually did, and I was successful.
Good for you. I mean, we had to do it as well, and we managed to get, I think, 2 months of TERS for everybody on our staff. But you know,
it rhymes with turds.
It is like turds, but you know, thankfully it helped a little bit. But it's not government's money. That's money that we've all put aside to the UIF. So it actually came out of your salary anyway, and you deserve it. It's your money. So they've got to sort out the systems. That's basically the story. And this story from Afghanistan, we were talking about it briefly yesterday. So they've pulled out of Afghanistan, and now there's already chaos. Heavy bombers and fighter jets are going to be deployed to safeguard troops and civilian contractors in Afghanistan. The US and NATO have had a presence there for almost 20 years. Joe Biden set the withdrawal deadline for 11 September, which is the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks that sparked the war. 20 years, since that happened in September this year. But the withdrawal comes amid escalating violence with Afghan security forces on high alert for reprisal attacks. The Taliban have warned that they're no longer bound by an agreement not to target international troops. So it's just getting more and more messy. And those are your headlines. All right. So Sia, you looked at the top 10 richest people, and this links to what we were talking about just a moment ago with Bill and Melinda and Jeff Bezos and his wife, Mackenzie. Of the 10 richest people, how many are still married? This might be an interesting thing.
Yeah, interesting to look at. Only 3 in the top 10 are still married, as opposed to the rest are all divorced. You're muted, Gareth.
We got Jeff Bezos, we've got Bernard Arnault, we've got Elon Musk, we've got Bill Gates, all divorced. Mark Zuckerberg still married to his wife. Warren Buffett, Larry Page still married. Larry Ellison divorced. Sergey Brin from Google divorced, and Amancio Ortega divorced. What do you make of that?
Yeah, is it just a coincidence, or is it just telling? Does it tell you a lot about marriage and how much is needed to make marriage work? Or is it just a thing of, I don't know, these people who are on these lists and how much they prioritize and sacrifice? So, for example, marriage is just not something that they have at the top of their list.
No, I think that when you have lots and lots of money, you just have lots and lots of options. So it's merely a question of, well, if you're very rich and you have tons of cash in the bank, you can afford to leave each other. And you don't have to be super rich, but this is a fact of even South African divorces, is that very, very poor people usually have to stay together. There's usually a joint income in the household. It's very, very hard for these people to get away from each other. One of the reasons that so many women are in unhappy marriages is because they need the money, or they're the kids. That's another point. So if you're extremely wealthy, like these people are, you both of the two people in the relationship can afford to go off and do their own thing. You just have more.
The thing here, though, is that those just fall in line with normal statistics, which is 1 in 4 marriages will survive.
1 in 4 will survive. Is that all that's left, huh?
Yeah, in fact, it's even different because it's even more extreme now, because that was a stat when I was getting married. And, in order to get married in a church, you have to go for lessons and counseling, weeks worth. And I remember that being the opening lesson from our minister, was that there were 4 couples, 4 of us. And he said, only one of your marriages will survive.
That's a delight to hear.
And it's also interesting how you think, oh, well, that'll be us.
Look at you now.
It wasn't yours, Leigh-Ann.
No.
I don't really know much about Larry. I don't know much about Larry Page's personal life, but it is Mark Zuckerberg's first marriage. This is Warren Buffett's second marriage. So he has already had a divorce, if you want to be technical about it. And I think it's a little weird, but lest we forget, he married his wife's best friend, who he's currently married to.
I think it doesn't matter. I think it doesn't matter how rich you are or how poor you are. People just do what people do. And we are unpredictable creatures in some ways because we have emotions, and you can never really figure out what someone's emotions might be from one day to the next, no matter how stable they are. And we are also very predictable in facts that Leigh-Ann has brought to light here, like 1 in 4 marriages survive. So we shouldn't maybe be surprised. I don't know. Maybe we treat people who've made lots and lots of money like they know something the rest of us don't. And they often do not. It takes one lucky break for anybody to become super, super rich, just like it takes one very bad mistake to make someone very, very poor sometimes.
It also takes one lucky break to fall genuinely in love with someone forever.
Sure, of course. You do. Sometimes you meet someone who's just perfect for you. And I've seen couples who've been married for more than 20 years who are as happy as can be. And then I've seen people who get married and within 2 months of the wedding, they are just at each other's throats. It's not working. Maybe they didn't apply themselves properly, but maybe it just is. Maybe it just isn't meant to be, I don't think divorce carries nearly the amount of stigma that it used to.
Definitely not.
So let people do their thing. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if there is a small component to this that has to do with the fact that if you have more money, you have more options. So it's easier to leave.
It's still not an easy decision to make, I would say.
Of course not. Well, listen, I mean, some people who are very, very uptight about these things, and maybe they've got a point. I'm not going to judge them. People say, well, you make a vow. It's like you're making a promise to that other person that you're going to stick it out. You're going to figure it out. You're going to work through all the problems. No matter what happens, I'm committing to you, for better or for worse, sick and healthy, rich and poor. And some people take that vow extremely seriously. It's like if I promise Leigh-Ann that I will pay her at the end of this month, and if I break that promise, then she doesn't have to trust me again.
Or I'll just kill you.
Or you could just kill me. And in a relationship, I think that's, to some people, it's deeply, deeply meaningful and important. Otherwise, don't get married. Just be together. But if you're going to do it, then it might as well mean something, right? That's how the one side treats it. The other side go, well, look, marriage is just another contractual obligation. If, like any contract, we decide that this isn't working, these are the exit clauses. And we're going to be practical about it, and we're not going to beat each other up about it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Too bad. And you can be anywhere from the one extreme to the other on that scale, and I'm not going to judge you. I think both are respectable decisions, and you're allowed to make your decision accordingly. But just don't tell other people how to live their lives.
I think that also what's interesting is that people are taking marriage more seriously in terms of starting out. So whether deciding to get married or not,
Right.
a lot of people are only doing it for specific reasons, whether they are religious and need to show a sign of commitment before they can be together as partners, or whether it's because they want their children to be brought up in a home of a married couple, or whether they want to tie their business interests together. But I don't think that. Thanks for my title there, Gareth. It does carry some gravitas and gives me some importance, which some credibility. But I think that because people are taking their time and in making the decision to get married, or they're just not getting married at all, is making a world of difference. I think divorce statistics will probably change in the next 10 to 15 years.
Just to point out what Leigh-Ann's talking about for those people who are listening on the podcast. Every morning on YouTube, when someone is on the screen on their own, it's got like their name and it says Leigh-Ann Mole. And then in brackets, I change it every single day. So this morning it said divorce. But I think, didn't I refer to you in my book as bitter divorcee, Leigh-Ann Mole?
Yes, you did. In fact, if you Google my name, that's what comes up.
Really?
No.
It's stuck.
Wait, hang on. Oh, that's hilarious. Leigh-Ann Mole. Hang on, let me have a look.
You need a bit of a Google
You might have to go Leigh-Ann Mole divorce or something like that.
So your Twitter comes up, then your LinkedIn, and it says what you do, and then it says Leigh-Ann Mole is a podcast contributor at cliffcentral.com, blah, blah, blah. Oh, here we are. Gareth Cliff, bitter divorcee, Leigh-Ann Mole, like the fifth one. This is so great. It says, okay, hang on.
No.
Yes, this is terrific. Oh, my God. All right. It says, bitter divorcee, Leigh-Ann Mole, says an engagement ring is a gift and you can keep it even if you break it off.
It's true.
Like X, I say you may reclaim it and use it a second time for a younger, better fiancé. What do you say?
And it's true. I kept both my engagement rings and sold them eventually at an auction place. But there's even a place now, I think it's called Divorce My Jewelry or Divorce My Diamonds. That you can take your diamonds to. But that's exactly what it works out to be if you have an anti-nuptial contract, is if those sorts of things are considered gifts. Even if your mother, if the mother-in-law gives the son-in-law a gift, that stays a gift. You don't win it back. So if it's a big painting or something like that, they take that with them.
Fundo says a relationship will either build you or destroy you, and that's very dramatic. But I think he's right. I think maybe I've seen some people just totally leveled when a relationship goes badly for them, and they don't recover for years. They man down or woman down for a long time.
Yeah, I'm still in recovery from my last relationship.
Yeah,
and that was 5 years ago. It's psychologically so deep for me. I still dream about the person at least every second night.
Sure.
It's a very, very, very difficult relationship to get over. Some you'll barely remember, but others cut deep.
And, for now, we've only spoken about divorce in context of just two people, but we haven't even thought about and factored in what it does to kids. Weekly Oprah mention. The old Oprah episode I was rewatching this week was an episode she did on adult children of divorce who still harbor emotions and feelings around it. And it's fun, just because you are now 18 years old and an adult doesn't mean your emotions have just vanished into thin air. But when you are 6 years old and Christmas is the most important thing to you, and now you have to find out that actually daddy won't be there, and then you need to go there to the second house for the next weekend, and what that does to you, and you've never seen your parents at the dinner table together, that'll make an impact, huh?
Well, listen to these two opposing points of view. Here's Daniel, who says, divorce should carry a stigma. The nuclear family has value. Kids need both parents. It adds unbelievable value, I believe. I think that's about right, especially when it comes to kids. But, if two adults who have not had children decide after a couple of years of being together that they don't want to be together anymore, that sort of divorce, I don't think necessarily carries the same stigma. If you're going to have kids together, it's a very serious decision and needs to be taken seriously. Tabo says, people get married because they put marriage on a pedestal. Marriage is not for everyone. It's okay if you're not married. It's not an achievement. A lot of people are doing it for the wrong reasons. Also, all very valid points, right?
Yep, very much so.
Basitsana says, I'm still carrying the physical and emotional weight from my past relationship. We ended it 3 years ago. He still sends me birthday gifts every year. I'm complicit because I still accept it. Yeah, you see. That's also.
But girl, you did good. If she's still sending gifts,
you got to draw the line somewhere. Like I like to get along with all my exes, and I think for the most part I do. I don't have any. There's no one. If I saw any of those girls I've dated before, and I saw any of them today at the shops, none of it would be weird. It would be like, hey.
Ooh, total opposite for me.
0.0, Gareth.
What do you mean? No, there would be no weirdness. It wouldn't. But I'm also not. They're not into me anymore, and I'm not into them anymore, which is part of why it works. With this guy who's sending Basitsana these gifts, he obviously still feels very deeply for her, and maybe she does for him too. The lines are getting blurry. Do you know what I mean?
Man, it's so difficult. There just are no rules, and there should be no judgment, really. Anything applies.
Excuse me with all of this sneezing.
Very snotty, eh?
So sneezy this morning. Ridiculous.
You're like a little dwarf.
Well, apparently, this is interesting. Bill Gates' family, and then we'll leave this alone. Leigh-Ann will tell us in the next hour because it's already 7:00. But Bill Gates' family are furious about a secret trip that he's doing ahead of the divorce. So that could be a sign that something more is going on. We'll find out in the next hour. CliffCentral.com on a Friday morning. I hope you're having an awesome day and your day has started off beautifully, not like mine and Leigh-Ann where we overslept. We'll be with you.
Hi, I'm Timothy Maurice Webster, the host of the Brain and Brand Show. And as a behavioral psychology author, I'm super passionate about helping you understand the brain of your clients, customers, and consumers. And in this latest 3-part series, I bring you cutting-edge insights from behavioral science. And in the second episode of this 3-part series, I bring you insight about scarcity and the endowment effect. You can download this podcast on CliffCentral.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you suffer from collectivism, collectivity, collectionitis? Do you have an obsession with objects? Are you a fanatic, a devotee, an aficionado? Cliff Central dispenses a weekly dose of collectomania. Join me as I talk to compulsive collectors. Fascinating, intriguing, possibly a little weird. Collectomania, Mondays on the Gareth Cliff Show. Brought to you by SA Gold Coin Exchange and the Scoin Shop. All right, we're back. We're live. Let's do this thing. Good morning, everybody. CliffCentral.com on a, Friday morning. Sure. Look at how this week has gone. So there's lots to talk about today. There's lots to get into. Sia and Leigh-Ann and I, and we've got George Meany joining us later on. We've also got an interesting guest who's going to be joining us, someone called Reza Mia, who has invented something called the Pegasus Vertical Business Jet. It's a proper...
bless you.
Yeah. A hell of a thing,
your
right?
class is improving.
We're going to find out all about this thing. It's a really interesting development in business flight, and I think lots of people will be excited to hear about it. So that's coming up in a short while. Just because we like to check on these things, thanks to Sean Sanders. Bitcoin, $55,809 this morning. It was at 57,000 yesterday. It's jumping around like you cannot believe at the moment. Madness. All right, so let's just wrap up the conversation we were having before. In the first hour was about like Bill and Melinda Gates and rich people and divorces and poor people and divorces and ordinary people and divorces. So apparently Bill is taking a secret trip ahead of his divorce, and this has got the whole family furious. What do we know about this?
So he actually, that's not the truth. It's actually the other way around. So before the divorce, Melinda and Bill wanted to take the whole family and like extended family as well to an island. And the story is that they wanted to make the announcement to everyone on this island. Why an island? Because they didn't want the media getting access to these people straight after the announcement. They were trying to keep it as contained as they could. So it was apparently Melinda herself who rented, I don't know how to pronounce this, Calivany Island in Grenada.
Where is it?
It's in Grenada.
See, now we've got to look it up because it's probably really fantastic if she could afford it. So just spell it for us. We want to look this place up.
CAL.
Right.
IVI.
Yeah.
GNY. She rented the entire island for $132 a night. $132,000.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I'm
pretty sure $132. We can even do that.
That's terrific.
So the plan was for Melinda and the kids and their significant others. So that's where the extended family comes in to go to the island. Everyone except Bill. So apparently everyone in the family already knew that Bill and Melinda were divorcing. And there are also many stories which say that this was on the cards for a long time. There was obviously a considerable amount of acrimony associated with the split. And apparently everyone in the family took Melinda's side. Ooh. Apparently they were all very angry at Bill, and that's why he wasn't invited. So the reason for going to the island was that so no one from the media could reach them and ask them about the split when it was announced during their stay. But the lawyers for both Bill and Melinda were trying to hash out a divorce settlement. There were still outstanding issues that couldn't be resolved at the time of the trip. So Melinda decided to go anyway with everyone but Bill. So apparently, some sources are saying that this was not a friendly split. TMZ, which is one of the rumor channels, which I actually, it carries a little bit of gravitas for me, because a lot of things, they've often been the ones to break the news and in the right way and the true news. So TMZ were told that Melinda and most of the family were furious at Bill for various things that they claimed that he had done.
Let me just show you this island. Look at this. Looks pretty.
So So what's interesting is that would have been for Melinda. They've got 3 kids and the 3 significant kids others. So that would have been for 7 of them.
7 people on that beautiful island. Well, listen, I mean, nice if you can have it. Good for them. Anyway, I just think that, there's a classy way to do divorce. And I think she was maybe trying it. And obviously there's just a lot of hard feelings with Bill. So who knows what the hell happened there. We will see. It all comes out in the wash. By the way, Sia has fallen in love with a woman. Yeah. Well,
I nearly spat out my water.
Yeah. Let's rephrase it, please.
That psychic was right. The Sia's he's found a dream woman. Well, I mean, she's stealing his heart, and he thinks she's pretty fabulous. But I don't think he's necessarily going to change his mind and suddenly start dating women. So let's have a look. Who is this person? Dun, 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 dun. Here she is. Sia's secret crush.
Goodbye, Queen Elizabeth. Goodbye, Meghan Markle with the sparkle. We are now enwrapped in the splendor, the glamour, the beauty of the Japanese former Empress Michiko.
The former Empress or the current? Oh, the old lady. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, she's fantastic.
At her.
Oh, wow.
She was married to Emperor Akihito, right? She was married to Emperor Akihito. She's the former empress. She's the Dowager Empress.
I don't know how I discovered her yesterday, but I have been stuck on a Google rabbit hole of notes. Every single outfit of hers is so unnecessary, but still so necessary. It's just over the top. She's fabulous.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, well, I must be honest with you. I've never really paid a huge amount of attention to Empress Michiko, but she does look fantastic. I mean, she's definitely, listen, there's something, I know this is a huge generalization, but there's something about the whole Japanese way of doing everything that is so goddamned appealing. They everything they do beautifully. Everything's a ritual. I know this is what like some idiot Westerner or some idiot South African would say. And there are probably Japanese people who will not fulfill any of these criteria, and they're still as Japanese as can be. But I just get this impression like the Japanese have such a respectful, thoughtful, careful, meaningful way of doing everything they do. And maybe I'm just, I've got this fantasy in my head about how Japanese people really are and how their culture works. Maybe it's not at all like that. But in my head, they are one of the nations, again, it's a huge stereotype, but they're one of the nations that just seem to get things right. Like the Italians craft beautiful things, and the French are sophisticated, and the Japanese are just extraordinary to me. I maybe I've got to go there and see it for myself before I can comment effectively on this. But if she's any kind of representation of it, I totally understand what you mean, Sia. Such grace, such elegance, everything's right.
Loves poetry. She plays the piano.
She does, yeah.
Right? She hardly says anything, and then you just see her with these gorgeous outfits. I'm taken. absolutely smitten.
Let's see how much of it is just the outfits.
Well, obviously, clearly everything, because she doesn't say anything or do anything. All she's doing is wearing these outfits and being shaded by other people with these gorgeous Japanese parasols. That's all she's doing.
Imagine going out to buy milk in an outfit like this.
But the point is, she doesn't go out and buy milk. So she dresses up like that on state occasion. Sia, do you know who my crush is in terms of her outfits, her look, and everything else? Is Mel B from the Spice Girls. I mean, I've always thought she was the. I've always looked up to her.
What the hell is that?
It's Mel B from the Spice Girls.
The Muppet version.
Just one more time, please. What was that?
Oh, it's Mel B from the Spice Girls. Scary Spice. Ooh.
Lord.
You don't know her?
Oh, Jesus, that's bad.
Oh man! All right, listen. Interesting stories that are in the news this morning, and this is a frightening story. They found a woman who has been missing for months now. It's how many months? November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. Well, May now. So it's almost 5 months that she's been missing. November 2020, she disappeared somewhere. She's been living in a tent in Utah. She's been in a canyon eating moss and grass.
Willingly?
Like a primitive person, like a forager. What the hell's going on with people?
They are still trying to figure out what exactly is going on with this woman. She's 47 years old. Her identity has not been revealed just because there's so much investigation going into the story.
I found a picture of her. Here she is. It's me, Mel B. Oh, scary spice. That's it.
It seems like she willingly has been living in this forest, and that is why she had a tent, she was all set up, and she was quite content eating grass and moss. The only people who
Was she pissed off when they found her? She was like, "Leave me alone, I'm fine."
I don't know that part. Her family and friends are the ones who've now also informed the police that she's lost a significant amount of weight. But it was from November last year where she just vanished off the face of the earth. And it was recently when someone was just flying a drone in the area. It crashed and fell. And so they went to go and search for it in that area and stumbled upon this 47-year-old woman. I kind of feel like they should let her be then. If this is what she wants, then go right ahead.
Definitely.
So, Leigh-Ann, she's just a bit older than us. And I know you've had fantasies since you were 24, 25 of just going off into the wilderness and living somewhere simple with animals. And, you've always wanted to be on a farm or maybe out in the wilderness. This could be your story. And I mean, I'm also a bit of a hermit sometimes. So that there's this part of me that wants to go off to, be left alone in a log cabin in the woods for the rest of my life. It's not such an unattractive proposition,
It was 15 years earlier than that, actually, when I was on a family holiday, and we were trekking in the Drakensberg and came across the grotto, which is a cave where a man famously lived as a hermit for many years, in this cave that was on the edge of the water. And all you could hear was this water dripping in this very shaded forest area with ferns, and he lived there for his whole life, lived and died there. And that's when it became appealing to me, when I was not even 10 years old.
Maybe it's just too many movies of like seeing these people in this. Here's a word for you, Sia. Are you ready? Bucolic. People in this bucolic splendor where they they kind of just, they're surrounded by nature and natural beauty, and they rely on the land, and they live off a little stream, a crystal clear stream that flows through the mountains, and they pick things and they eat them, and they manage to forage for fruit and vegetables, and they grow their own stuff up in the mountain. No one ever finds them. It's a bit of a fantasy thing. It's like I vacillate between being totally like a hermit and not wanting anything to do with people, and then suddenly going, I need a bunch of people around me now. And it's probably the degree is probably about one of those days where I need people to 7 days where I really would like to be the hermit. But I can't say for sure I'm one or the other. I definitely go between the two.
Because for this woman,
right now, today I could be. You could leave me alone today. It's like a slightly cold, overcast morning. I woke up late because I was having such a fat sleep today. I just need the minimum of human interaction today. But there's going to be a day in the next 5 or 6 where I'm going to go, shit, I really need to see people.
I never reached that point.
You always you're on the hermit side 24/7.
Yeah, definitely. I took my aunt. We rotate as all of the cousins, but I took my aunt grocery shopping on the weekend, and for some reason she wanted to go to a mall, and that was because she'd ordered wool from a specific shop. She does this beautiful crocheting, and actually makes a living out of it. But we went into this mall. It was month end. It was packed. There was not even parking. It was ridiculous. And I went on and on with this escapade for about an hour until eventually I lost it. I said to her, look, I'm going to the car. I'll meet you at the car. But she was at a different shop, so I had to drive to this other shop.
But Leigh-Ann, I understand that post-corona, because I find I'm the same. I don't like being in shopping centers or malls. But you weren't hermity before corona.
I can't. I only ever go out if I have to. But this time in particular, I said to her, I don't understand why we can't just buy your stuff online. It's driving me mad doing this thing every month. And she said, but I actually like to get out once a month. And I felt so bad after that. And I thought I hadn't taken her into consideration at all in terms of that.
Well, I mean, Sia, you're the opposite, right? I mean, like, you are pretty much constantly set to people. Although you also have a bit of a loner side going on.
I think we've lost Sia, but also, yeah, Sia likes his alone time. Sia likes his alone time baths and things.
Yeah. Did we interrupt your alone time?
Yes. No, I don't know. I like being alone on my terms. And when I also need people, I need to have them. I can't go too long without people. That's why at least once a day, I have one extended phone call with someone, just at least like to have that connection. But if it's about leaving the house, I'm quite content being indoors, but I still need a bit of that connection. So I feel bad somewhat for this woman who seems like her life has been interrupted because she's now been dragged into...
How quickly we turned her story. Let's talk about us rather, We did that classic thing.
I feel like her life really has been interrupted because now she's been dragged to a mental hospital for some evaluation.
Oh, no. Shame.
She was living her best life, eating grass. She was right next to a river as well. And all she had was a tent and a camp chair, it seems. And that was it.
Oh, no. If it's against her will, and then that upsets me. I really wish they'd have left her alone.
Well, maybe she did have like mental issues, though.
Maybe if she did, and if she was really struggling, then yes. But if she was happy, then leave her.
she wanted to eat her moss and her grass and live in the canyon. Leave her the
She
fuck
was on
alone.
she was on the Kate Moss diet.
Yeah, she must have looked great. Hey, don't forget this weekend is Mother's Day, huh? You know, for those people whose whose moms are an important part of their life. I mean, if you fucking hate your mom, sure, then don't worry. But if you like her for whatever reason, then you need to remember presents or do something special for Mother's Day. Because I always forget Mother and Father's Days. I'm not good with them, so I'm actually reminding you because if I don't get a reminder, I'm in trouble. Although I don't think my mother or father would really give a shit, but I always feel bad if it happens, and then my brother and sister have remembered and I haven't. That's embarrassing.
Well, isn't it sort of the beauty of now having nephews? Because don't the grandkids take over some of that as well?
Yeah, they do.
Not if they're 5.
Not if they're little. Yeah.
5 and 7, they don't even remember their own birthdays. Like, woo, today's my birthday. Awesome.
No, it can still count.
Well, I mean, Steph, I think, sympathizes with you, Leigh-Ann. Steph says, lockdown made me realize I hate crowds. And Eleutheria says, oh, yes, shopping is like sport and socializing in one for the older generation. So kind of taking your answer.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. But also, just to further that point, when I do see people, and it must never be a lot. So let's say it's a visit to my cousin, her husband and her kid. Then after I've finished doing it, I'm so grateful that I did. And I realized the benefit that I got out of it. So I do see the point. That's all.
You see, I'm like that. I mean, I'm like that with any event. I've said to you before, I suffer from the opposite of FOMO. And maybe this is the kind of socialization we've discussed on the show before. But long before Corona, I always hate going to things. So I will always say no to every event that I get an invitation to, unless I'm really, really sure it's something I'll absolutely love. And therefore, I don't have to feel, oh, no, because even if it's something I do want to go to, while I'm getting dressed or while I'm driving to it, I'm like, I should have said no to this. Which is ridiculous because I usually have a good time once I'm there. But it's like the opposite of FOMO.
Absolutely.
Didn't we give it a name? It's the joy of
JOMO.
JOMO. Yeah, joy of missing out. People say to me, oh, like you remember when you used to get, and I still get them occasionally, but you'd get a like 11 o'clock at night phone call from one of your friends or whatever, and you'd be like, I'm not answering that. And then they leave you this voice note or whatever, and they, hey man, where are you? It's so much fun. Why don't you come? And I'm like, nah, it's fine.
Yes.
There's never been an occasion where that's happened where I've gone, yeah, I wish I was there. Man, oh, damn, I'm feeling so left out. This is so horrible. I'm sad and miserable. I'm always like, I'm in bed. You go ahead. No problem. No jealousy. No FOMO. Not one tiny little bit.
I actually remember when I was married, we used to, obviously
before you were a bitter divorcee.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were in our mid to late 20s, and every night of the weekend was a party or a gathering of some sorts. And we ended up living in a complex where we had a lot of friends who lived there too. We were friends with them before we moved there. And there were some nights we'd go out, and it would reach a point of the night where we go out, to one of the other houses. And it would reach a point where I just wanted to go home. I was done for the night. And they wouldn't let me. And that feeling has never actually passed. So I would go home, and then I would need to actually barricade the door.
Oh my God.
With furniture, because they'd come in drunk going, come on, Leigh-Ann, come back to the party. We miss you. And
that's very serious though. I mean, like that almost sounds a little bit abusive,
It was horrible. And I still have dreams where I'm trying to sleep and people are waking me up going, come on, you can't sleep. Let's go.
Your dreams. are a
No, but
little
that
concerning.
actually happened. That actually happened this morning. Sia was trying to wake you up for the show, and you were like, "Oh, I don't want to wake up. I'm still in a dream."
So your dreams basically alternate between your ex and people trying to force you to party. That's what you dream about on average.
There's a lot more than that, but most are recurring dreams of some kind. Yeah.
And don't forget the Chinese man who licked her face in the lift. She still thinks about him.
Jeez.
Actually, that's one thing I don't have nightmares about. I really dealt with that quite well.
You put it out.
It's an emotional issue.
No, it's not. Look, she's fine with it. I promise.
Leigh-Ann, are you?
Yeah. No, I promise I am. I really got over that quite well.
I wouldn't be able to.
To go back to the woman in the canyon with the moss and the and the grass that she was eating, Hermine says, if she is found to be sane, she should sue the cuck out of those people and then use the money to buy herself a piece of land where she can live in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But sue for what, though?
Well, they kind of
pestering
detained her.
Yeah.
They detained her against her will and institutionalized her against her will. You can't, if you're sane and people do that to you, that's a kind of abuse. Basitsana says, and she's using the correct term here, which I like. She says, I realized that I'm an ambivert during lockdown. I would never have known otherwise. Ambivert means you're ambivalent between being introverted and extroverted. You're somewhere in the middle, which I think most of us are. I mean, I know in my slightly more manic phases, I'm very much an extrovert, and I'm loud and obnoxious and sometimes irritating. That's when I'm at that extreme. And then on the other extreme, you won't even necessarily get a word out of me. I'm just in my thoughts, and I'm totally self-contained, and I'm almost not even present. So we all vacillate between those two as well. Just as we were talking about the social aspect, that's much more of a mood aspect to me. And I think everybody is. I don't think anyone is 100% introvert or 100% extrovert. Do you?
Very rare cases.
I know some very high up there extroverts that would, make me feel like I do nothing at all. I think, it depends on the time and the mood. I would say I'm an extrovert, but I love a bathroom refuge every now and then. When you have those come to Jesus conversations in the middle of a bathroom, you just need to get away from the party and go, okay, it's fine. Okay, so
let's just clarify for people who think that you're going to the bathroom to do other dangerous and nefarious things. You're actually talking about a bath. Okay, it's very boring. It's not as sexy as you might have thought. Sia goes into the bathroom. He makes a huge, luxurious bubble bath, and that's pretty much him. That's his refuge.
That's all.
Yeah, that's all. We don't want it to sound dodgy. All right, I want to talk to a guy called Dr. Reza Mia. He's an innovator, and he's the creator of something called the Pegasus Vertical Business Jet. Now, every couple of days, weeks, months, however long it is for you, we come across somebody that really can be called the coolest person in the world. And today we're going to talk to the guy who's invented something which, I wish this is my invention. I wish I'd even got close to inventing a part of this thing. But this sounds like something out of a superhero story. It's like something Batman would have in his cave. It's the first in South African aviation. It's an airplane that will provide true business jet performance coupled with helicopter convenience. Now, doesn't that sound good?
Oh, hell yeah.
It sounds great.
Well, if you do say so yourself.
I know you're going to say that, Reza, but let me try and explain this to people, and then you can fill in the gaps. So apparently, it's got a wingspan of... Oh, I'm hearing myself in someone else's feedback here. It's got a wingspan of 14.8 meters. It can take off and land on any helipad, and it has air fan technology, which can land it on grass. It can land on wooden decks, even on moving surfaces like a yacht, which is absolutely amazing. So that's what vertical takeoff and lift.
That's right, yes.
You can seat 7 people in this thing, including the pilot. It has a range of 4,400 kilometers from a runway takeoff and 2,124 from a vertical takeoff. Endurance is 6.6 hours on runway or 3.18 hours in vertical takeoff and lift. That's amazing. Flight speed can get up to 796 kilometers an hour. Now, you're a doctor, right? And by doctor, I mean like a medical doctor.
That's right. These are me.
Yeah, there we
my
are.
scrubs.
There's Dr. Reza. So Reza, this is amazing. First of all, tell us about your life up to now, and then we will talk about this business jet in a second. But just tell us what you do. I see all these certificates on the wall behind you. You're obviously a very accomplished man.
Yeah, I like to use that just as a little bit of a prop, but they are real. They're not. It's not wallpaper.
They're all real. Sure, of course.
I mean, I had I guess I would say, an unremarkable childhood growing up. Nothing different.
Where did you grow up?
I studied here in Joburg. I studied medicine at Wits, and then I did an MBA and a master's in finance, and I just kind of became fascinated by learning and knowledge and creating or innovating. And it was something that just kind of stuck with me. And it's not that I did it all at once. So sometimes people think that I did all of these things in one go, which would have been quite amazing, but it was more over time. Yeah.
I'm going to stop you there because you're being humble about this. I mean, most of us can't even get one degree.
Wow.
Yes.
You're talking about being a medical doctor, your MBA, you're studying, you're learning about aviation. Just go slowly here. So what do you do? Are you a GP or are you a specialist? What was it that attracted you to medicine, other than the fact that you're obviously naturally quite clever and people said to you, "Oh, you're so clever, you must become a doctor." Is that what happened to you?
I think that's kind of what happened. I think my parents were kind of like more excited than I was when I started. I didn't know what to study when I finished school. I just thought it's difficult and I should do it because then it gives me something of value. And I did. As I progressed through it, I learned to love different aspects of it. And right now I do aesthetic medicine. So botulinum toxins, fillers, make people look good and keep them healthy and happy. Good. But I've been expanding more into things like the biologicals, like platelet-rich plasma, stem cells. And quite interestingly, I've been very excited about the potential of using biocompatible filaments to print scaffoldings and seeding them with stem cells to make organs so that people won't need to do organ transplants anymore in the future. But I guess that will be for another show. And,
sure, that's phenomenal.
When it comes to the aviation side, I had the idea. I thought from a business perspective, it was great. The more I delved into the aviation manufacturing space, the more excited I was about it to be involved purely from a business space. But then when I thought it needed to be unique, it needed to be something that the world hadn't seen before, it became even more exciting. And that's where the vertical takeoff and landing comes in. And really just slowly over time, I've been teaching myself. Obviously I do work with engineers. I hire engineers to do the more technical details that almost legally they have to do. But things like I wanted to build or be involved in the building of the full-scale hover demonstrator myself. And so I started studying and learning about carbon fiber and different materials and how they work. And I thought if I had to get my hands involved and be building things myself, I could put my soul into the project in a bigger way. So I keep learning as much as I can, and I wish I could learn more in a day.
This is unbelievable. I mean, I'm always blown away by people who, when I define intelligence, it's about wanting to know more. It's not about necessarily having knowledge. And you definitely have that curiosity in spade loads. But you were talking about how you got engineers to help you because, you wouldn't let an engineer operate on one of your patients. And similarly, the engineers can't let a doctor come in and perform surgery on an aircraft. But the fact that you have got involved and now you are helping to build certain things, you're helping to design some of the materials. This is probably more exciting for you than anything you've done in medicine because it's so different to everything that you do on a daily basis, right? You can't wait to get back to that machine and add some component, try something, experiment with some new technology. It must be the most exciting thing about your life at the moment.
First of all, I really like the way you talk about me. I think I'll come back to the show more. But, sometimes my friends say to me, you haven't been on a holiday. You need a holiday. And they're right. It would be nice to have a holiday. But I do feel that when I'm not working with patients, I'm working on the plane and vice versa. Those are, for me, you're using slightly different parts of your brain, and so it is a bit of a holiday when it comes to shifting between the two. But like I say, the new things about the aesthetic side and medical science are still exciting me in, again, looking at the innovative space. I mean, there's ways that we might be able to use the umbilical cords of people to treat people with coronavirus who are stuck on ventilators. So that's something we're still working on.
Wow.
And obviously, it's active research, but the plane is a different science. It's more physics. I think I more naturally lean towards it. And obviously, it's a way that we can impact the whole world going forward. If you can just imagine using it for combining the two. Let's say you wanted to use it for medical rescue out at sea.
Sure.
You could fly 4 times the distance, 4 times the speed of a helicopter. So your footprint of where you can make a difference is much bigger.
Just explain to us what it looks like, because you've built a prototype and you are still you're doing tests. You've actually flown this already, so it's not as if this is all a pipe dream and it's sitting on the ground and it's never going to learn to take off, and you're just messing around. You've built a prototype. You've done test flights. You've been in this. How much do we know about it so far that we can explain to people, especially to those who can't see the picture that we've just put up now?
So basically what I started off with is I said to the engineers that were helping me, I said, let's make it look like a sports car that can fly. I didn't want it to be boring, like a tube in the sky. Many planes just look like a pencil with wings. And it's good reason. It's easy to pressurize and it's efficient. But there are ways now with carbon fiber that you can shape it in a way that will still be efficient and be even lighter, but can look sexy. And I guess that's where the aesthetics again comes in, is psychologically people want to be associated, they want to be inside, and they want to fly in things that look good.
Absolutely.
So it does look like that. I think we managed to get that done. And over time, it will also evolve slightly. But what you saw there was a 1/8 scale flying model that we worked on with some engineers in Pretoria to do the hover demonstration and to test what the parameters needed to be. It's sometimes people look at that and say, isn't that a drone? But the truth is, the layout of the fans is very different. And so you can't get the same, it's not in a square. So you can't balance it with traditional software as easily as it might seem. We're now building 2/4 scale models to send to the UK to do hover demonstration, forward flight, and even some transition. The reason we're sending it there is because we've partnered with a company called Cal and Lens, and they do control systems and automation for airplanes. They've done it for the military planes before, but they've given us an exclusive right on the commercial side, or the passenger side.
Reza, who's financing this? I mean, this is expensive stuff. None of this stuff happens cheaply, and all of it must be extremely costly, time-consuming. I mean, you've got your own practice. Probably all these engineers have other things to do as well. You're not all just dedicating your spare time to it. So someone has to finance this. Have you guys got backers?
No. Well, so far it's been me. And so I like to say it's the first plane that's ever flown on botulinum toxin and fillers. But that we have had a couple of smaller public fundraisings over the past few years, and we've actually done another one right now. We've got a share window open now, approved by the CIPC, so it's legal for us to offer it in the public space. And we hope that will be able to move our project forward faster. Again, when it comes to that Cal and Lens work that we're doing in the UK, the government there has given us a lot of support, including financial incentives. And so for us, it's a very good time to raise that funding, especially now that we've got our patents in the USA, in the UK, and even here. But so that's our funding goal. We do hope that with the work that we're doing now and the full-scale hover demonstration, we'll be able to impress bigger funders. Obviously, it's a project that will need, in the hundreds of millions of dollars to complete the certification at the FAA and that type of thing. But, the business case does still add up, and it's still very profitable, even at those outlay levels. But for us, it is to show progress and then try to attract further funding to move forward as much as we can.
But with all of these models you've built so far, none of them are actually piloted yet, because they're a scale model of what you're going to build eventually. And the idea is that if you can prove that these can do the job, then you can go on to building the actual thing at much greater cost, but with actual practical application. All right, so I'm going to bring in George Meany.
Exactly.
George is the CEO of Auto Trader. He joins us every Friday, and he's also he flies. He's a pilot, so he would be fascinated by all of this, and I'm sure he can't wait to talk to you. Hey, George.
Hey, Gareth. How's it going? Well,
George, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. How's this plane that Reza's working on? Pretty impressive stuff, huh?
Amazing, Reese. I think when somebody starts talking about doing something differently, because that hasn't been done in aviation except for Elon Musk's rockets. Everybody's still using the old traditional piston engines and fuel. And when I was listening in the background making coffee, and when I heard jet airplane, I ran to my computer and what is this about? Because you listen with half an ear when you make coffee.
But listen, I mean, this vertical takeoff and lift stuff. I mean, I've been interested. George, I've been talking to you about the originally the Muller Sky Car. Now, of course, we've got drones that are able to make this technology a lot more efficient. And what Reza's talking about here is effectively some improvement on that original idea. Which I absolutely love, and it would be the sexiest little craft ever if you can get this working. I mean, George, you might even be one of the people who wants to invest up front. Who knows?
Well, now, I mean, vertical takeoff and landing. I know nothing compared to what Reese knows, but vertical takeoff and landing. I mean, it comes back from the Harrier days, the days of Russia and England trying to compete with each other in vertical takeoff and landing. So if somebody can get this right, I think it's going to change aviation.
Well, Reza, what's the next step? I mean, where do you guys go? Let's say you get a whole bunch of people interested and you move this into engineering businesses overseas who can help you with some of the components that maybe we can't do here. What sort of timeline are we looking at here? What's your best case scenario for how this might pan out?
So I would say our next step is to, like you say, build manned models and start doing flight testing for certification purposes, so that we can get that stamp of approval that allows us to deliver to most countries in the world. I think the US FAA is still the biggest market. It's 67% of the jet market. So we have to cater for that. And that's our plan. I think with adequate funding, we should be able to start delivering to people in about 5 years.
Wow. No, that's absolutely amazing. I love it. Well, Reza, listen, congratulations. I mean, what an interesting guy you are. I'm sure that those are not your only interests. I'm sure that there are a whole long list full of more of these, but at least we know, Leigh-Ann, we know where to go if we want to get the sexiest little Batman plane, and we want to go for our Botox. We can go to the same guy now.
I'm so glad, because I've been looking for something to spend my millions on. So at least now I have a clear direction. I'm not going to waste my money.
Yes, I think this is the way to go. No, I love it. Reza, well done. This is absolutely awesome, man. Great to meet you, and thanks for coming up.
Thank you. That's really nice. I appreciate it. I enjoyed the show. If people want to find out more, they can just look us up on Instagram or on our website, Pegasus_UA.
I'm going to follow you now.
Pegasus_UA. Very good. Reza, nice to see you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Very good. Wow. Isn't that cool? George, I know this stuff is just like you're in my favorite area of interest, because the idea of flying has always been the most sexy thing in the universe to many of us. And the idea of building a new vehicle for the purposes of this is even more exciting. If you could land on the grass outside someone's house, and you could land on the deck of a yacht, and you can fly these kinds of distances.
What's going on?
What do you mean?
You want to land outside someone's house?
Yeah.
See, imagine if you pick someone up for a date. You and Leigh-Ann were talking earlier about how you don't know if you'd be able to go up to some rich, famous person and ask them out on a date. Oh, yes, if you have this thing, you can. Like, I'll pick you up at 6. You go, yeah, I'll pick you up at 6. We'll go out for dinner. She goes, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll be ready at 6. What's your address? She sends the address, and you check it out on Google Earth. You see that there's a nice patch of grass just a little way down from the house. Bring in your little jet, land there.
Okay.
Come on, tell me that isn't the most.
I didn't think of it like that. I thought you want to drop somewhere and abduct people. No, that I wanted clarification on.
What kind of a psychopath are you? That tells me more about you than it does
This is why we clarify things, okay?
This is why you should never be allowed a pilot's license.
I just see him as a passenger.
And that too.
I love this. And you know what? What a cool thing for a doctor who's already doing well, who already has a practice that seems to be thriving, that knows his stuff in that field. What a cool thing for him to also become a master of another field. Amazing. All right, George, what do you got for us this morning?
Well, back down to earth, I guess. In Alabama, this always happens in Florida, America, for some reason. Alabama. Some guy, well, actually, his name was Tory Gray, was moving a couple of 100 kilometers and driving his truck with a load of his goods on the back, saw the car in front of him swerve and didn't know what the car swerved for. And he eventually realized that when he had stopped at the next filling station, he hit an owl. And this owl was stuck in his... in their terms, Bucky. In our terms, Bucky. In their terms, truck. In his truck's grill for a couple of 100 kilometers.
Oh my God!
The strange thing is that the owl was fine. It broke the grill, was sitting against the radiator. He called the conservation services. They came to dislodge the owl, and the owl was actually fine. And it was more. His car was more damaged than the owl.
Jeez.
I'm glad to hear the owl survived, but this happens because owls often will land on the road in South Africa to pick up something like a rat or a rodent or a rabbit or something that's crossed the road and got hit by a car. And many people have killed owls because they'll land on the road and then they're easily startled by bright light because they're nocturnal creatures. And also we've got huge numbers of people in this country who are terribly superstitious about owls, and they kill the owls. So we actually should be looking after these animals. I'm very sad to hear that this one was hit by this Bucky, but at least it survived.
Yeah, it survived. It was fine. I sent you a link. You can see the gentleman holding the owl. The owl seems quite calm, actually. And I'm glad the owl survived. But how does an animal get hit at high speed and survive a couple of 100-kilometer journey sitting against the grill of a radiator of a car?
Well, that makes me think of something, and maybe you can help us with this for next week's show, George. What is the perfect vehicle to have if there's a zombie apocalypse? I know you're the right. Yeah, I want you to do some research and ask your team, because you've got some very sharp people at Auto Trader, and I know you guys can give me the whole spectrum of cars and vehicles and whatever it might be. What kind of vehicle would Leigh-Ann and Sia and you and I need if we were going into the zombie apocalypse?
Okay, I'll come back to you.
I watched that video of that dude who was transporting, I think, cell phones, and that video of him being shot at by those hijackers. And he kept driving, and he had the guy next to him loading the gun, and he managed to drive just unbelievably well and kept his cool throughout. And we were all, I think everybody in the country's been talking about him this week. But I thought about him, and I thought, like, he would be a great driver during a zombie apocalypse. But what kind of vehicle would be the best thing to give him so that in those circumstances he can really live up to his maximum efficiency, capacity, ability?
He needs one of those cars with the wheels that rotate all the way around so that you can drive sideways as well.
Don't all wheels rotate all the way around?
No, but...
As in the wheels of the bus go round and round?
No. So imagine they're not on an axis. They're suspended in another way, and they can pivot so that you can drive left or right, like straight into a parallel parking.
Oh, that Mercedes, I think it's Mercedes-Benz, have this technology on their their higher-end cars, where the rear wheel turns. The front wheels turn like front wheels turn, but the rear wheel turns slightly to help the car around a corner or turn. But I know what you mean. So you can parallel park quite easily, or change direction when the hijackers or the zombies are there.
So, I mean, if the car's like this, the wheel's got to be perpendicular to it. Leigh-Ann is saying that she actually wants a wheel that can, like, they can all in sync. They can all sort of lean, basically.
No, so I'm trying to explain it. It's so hard.
Dr. Reza Mia was saying to me, he's really been looking for an engineer, and he was thinking about you, and then he was so sure that you were the one, Leigh-Ann. Now, after listening to you for the last 2 seconds, he's like, nah, not that bitch.
Okay, just quickly, I need to get this off my chest.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so imagine two cars against the pavement.
What?
Yeah, please do.
I sent you a link with an example.
All right. Go on, Leigh-Ann. Just describe it the way you want to.
So, okay. Imagine you're looking from a drone. Okay, you're looking from an aerial point of view. Right. And you can see next to the pavement are two cars. And there's a parking spot between them that you want to get into. Just in front of the restaurant, a parallel spot.
Okay.
So imagine driving up to that spot so that you are right next to the spot. You're not forward next to the other car or back next to the other car. You're directly next to the open spot. Your wheels rotate. They spin around, and then you can just move to the right or the left to get into that spot.
Your wheels will turn perpendicular. No, I'm trying to explain it to him.
I know Leigh-Ann.
Yeah, I know too. I mean, she's basically saying you just slide into the parking.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
She's so aggressive today.
Is it worth it for you, Leigh-Ann? It took 40,000 years to convey that.
And
do you know what I'm talking about, Sia?
We all understood from the start. We knew what you meant.
Did you? Oh,
yes.
My job here is done.
No.
I just wanted to see how far this would go and how annoyed you'd be.
All right. So I just want to go back to George, because that's actually why we're here at this point. So George, we've given you an assignment for next week with the zombie apocalypse, but go on with your agenda for the day. Let's hear what else you've got on your list of things.
I sent you a photograph.
Yes, there it is.
There we go. A car salesman, obviously in the United States, selling Fiat Chrysler automobiles, has been for the last 9 years collecting bonuses for selling Fiat Chryslers to the tune of about 9.9 million rand, which means he's collected bonuses of about R1 million a year by giving customers discounts. So here's how the thing worked. Customer would walk in, any customer, not necessarily in relation to him. He would offer the customer a 5% discount, and how he would apply the discount was he would tell the customer to say that they were a relative of an employee of Fiat Chrysler.
Okay.
And in so doing, get the discount. I mean, employees get discounts at retail stores, and if you're family, you might be able to benefit from that. But this was fake. So he apparently sold over 250 cars in January 2020 alone on this basis, and he's collected 9.9 million rand over the last 9 years. But how he was caught was interesting, because employees in the business started to see that people were applying for discounts on their names.
Mm-hmm.
And so the federal agents arrested him on April the 30th, and he's posted bail, but his hearing is set for next month, May. But
nobody's family can be that big, right? There's not that many people who can have a relative discount.
A relative discount, exactly. But you think to yourself, how many times does that actually happen in other scenarios? You go and you buy something. You've got a friend that can get a discount because his or her is working there. I think this happens in real life all the time.
Oh, especially in South Africa. I mean, these days, if you have a friend who's in the ANC, you can get a government job. You just have to say, "This is my friend," and you end up Director General of Home Affairs before you can click your fingers. It's fantastic. It's called nepotism. And it is such a big win in this country of ours. It's just the best.
Well, I hope he gets nabbed for it because you can't have that big a family as you say. But getting on to the actual local economy, we're unfortunately seeing higher and higher car prices. I think we predicted this about 2 or 3 months ago. Consumers aren't buying new cars anymore. Well, they are buying new cars, but they're buying less of them. And it turns out that we are going to see about an 8 to 9%, or we're busy seeing an 8 to 9% increase in new car prices. But that's not the challenge, because as volumes drop, average prices go up. Used car prices are starting to rise. We're going up from the mid 1% in used car prices in terms of price increases to the mid 3 to 4%. And I think this is as a result of the demand on used cars. People aren't buying new, they're buying used, and there's a lack of stock in the country. But it translates into another problem. We've seen exports increase in the first quarter of this year by 4% versus last year. So 60% of the vehicles we make in this country are exported. We've seen an increase of 4%. And I keep saying that we are going to lose our export industry if we don't move to EVs.
Yeah, I mean, you've warned about this. And do we build any electric vehicles here?
No. So that's the big problem, is we need to retool our manufacturing plants. Now, the OEMs are all over. It's not like they're not doing anything. The trouble is it's expensive, and the margins on cars are thin. Not, if you can buy a 500,000 rand car or a R1 million car, it's not like the manufacturer or the dealer is making 250,000 rand. That's not the case. The margins are very thin. But to retool these plants is very expensive. Often puts the OEM into a loss-making scenario. So government has to come to the party. The encouraging thing.
George, do you really think government are the people who are going to make this happen? Or do you think private industry will just catch on and go, okay, listen, guys, if we want to stay in business, we better start building these instead of those?
No, that's already the case. I think that OEMs are my customers. They are on the bandwagon. It's just really difficult to transition a business. And at the end of the day, more than likely, OEMs might take the hit, in order to transition their businesses. But government can make it a lot easier by reducing import taxes as well as incentivizing consumers. Can you imagine incentivizing companies giving employees company cars with zero tax for 5 years?
I can totally imagine that. I also think that ultimately we're going to move in that direction, but it's going to take a while. I think we're really at the back of that curve. I don't think we're at the front.
But we've got a drop dead date, and that's 2030 to 2035. England says no more ICE vehicle sales from 2030, and Europe is somewhere in the region of 2035. So we don't have a lot of time.
But that doesn't mean people aren't still going to drive those ICE vehicles. They're still going to be out there. They're still going to be on the road. It's just going to be very difficult to find parts. It's going to become increasingly difficult for people who do want to buy them to find them, anywhere except on Auto Trader, obviously. But this is exciting, George. I'm happy about this. I think it's a good development. There's going to be more competition. There's going to be some really interesting innovation. I don't think anyone's going to look back except the serious petrol head car fanatics and go, oh, we've lost something.
I
think they're going to go, I want an ICE vehicle because it's going to be so much more modern and easy to use and fuel efficient and it'll be able to do things that ordinary cars now can't. So I'm happy for this. I think it's good.
No, it's a very good thing. But I'm going to keep bleating about this until we start to see the curve changing, because EV sales globally has grown by 41% in the last year. Global EV sales. Now, we're not talking about South African sales, which is a very low number, but 41%. And for the first time, Europe grew faster than China.
Very good. Very, very good. All right. What else we got?
That's it.
That's it. Leigh-Ann, do you want to explain any other complicated engineering to us before we go?
No, I've learned my lesson. Keeping quiet. There's the car, by the way.
Come in an EV.
All right.
Do with it what you will.
All right. Thank you, Leigh-Ann. Very good. She's so angry. Here's the car. Look at the horrible fucking
You'll
car.
actually need their whole weekend to get back to dealing with us.
There's the car. Leigh-Ann wants us all to drive one of those. That's what she wants. All right.
Are we done? Are we done? I need a break from you all.
Yeah, all right. You got 2 whole days to recover.
2-day break. Yeah.
And we'll see you on Monday at 6:00. George, thanks very much. Sia, thanks very much. Most importantly, thank you to you. And Leigh-Ann Mole will be rested and ready to take it on. All of it. All the nonsense
Yes.
on Monday morning. Have a good weekend.